Welcome back to AP Psych. Today's episode is on parenting styles, so without further ado, which parent are you? Today, we are going to be addressing 3 different parenting styles, as well as what type of parenting you should be providing as your children develop through the different stages of their adolescence. To analyze your children's stages of growth, we will be using Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development and Erik Erikson's 8 stages of development. Let's begin. The first type of parenting that we are going to discuss is authoritarian parenting, and yes, it sounds like totalitarian for a reason. An extreme example of this that will be commonly mentioned throughout the course of this video is Tiger Mom. Tiger Mom, also known formally as Amy Chua, is a Yale law professor with 2 daughters, and she writes about her Chinese heritage and the way in which it has influenced her parenting choices. Her daughters are not allowed to watch TV or play computer games, have sleepovers or playdates, or get any grade less than an A. Chua claims that these strict policies are the reason why her children have been so successful in school and in their music studies. She has proudly established herself as Tiger Mom and defines her authoritarian parenting style as the practice of positive and negative parenting strategies simultaneously.
Tiger parenting uses high levels of positive parenting along with high levels of negative parenting, which incorporates warmth and support that coincides with strict non-negotiable rules.
Research shows that Tiger Moms produced kids who felt more alienated from their parents and experienced higher instances of depressive symptoms. They also had lower GPAs despite feeling more academic pressure. Parents who scored high on the positive parenting dimensions and low on the negative parenting dimensions had the most well-adjusted, successful children. Thus, we encourage parents to consider using supportive parenting techniques even as strict Tiger parents. Moving on to permissive parenting. This kind of parenting is characterized by low demands with high responsiveness, so essentially parents rarely ask their children to do anything, yet praise them profusely when they do. So, for example, these parents aren't strict enough to require their child to get all A's in school with the promise of punishment as the incentive, but if their child does get all A's, they will reward, and reward some more. A more common example of this parenting style is the I'm a cool parent. These parents are the ones who let their child throw parties with alcohol and drugs in their home in order to make their child happy. You can expect this child to be wearing the latest trends and holding the newest iPhone. A drawback to this form of parenting is that they do not expect mature behavior from their children and often seem more like a friend than a parental figure. And they are incredibly lax and rarely make or enforce any type of rules or structure. If you're a child watching this video and your mom or dad has used the phrase, "kids will be kids," when you mess up or break something, then you have permissive parents. Finally, on our last parenting style, we are going to look at authoritative parenting. This parenting style generally produces the best outcomes in children.
Studies have found that preschoolers raised by authoritative parents tend to be happy and content, are independent and self-reliant, develop good social skills, have good emotional regulation and self-control, express warmth and cooperate with peers, and explore new environments without fear.
The reason why authoritative parenting is the most effective form of parenting is because these types of parents are warm, attuned, and nurturing, listen to their children, reason with their children instead of demanding blind obedience, consistently enforce boundaries, use positive discipline instead of punitive, forceful measures, and lastly, they actually and truly earn, but not demand, their own child's respect. This is important because parents like Tiger Mom do not care if they have gained their children's respect in the process of raising their children. They simply know that as a parent, they have a duty to make sure their children grow up and are as successful as possible, and they do not care if they hurt them in the process. As for permissive parents, they particularly do not care if their children respect them. Instead, they would much rather have their children consider them as a best friend or a homie. Authoritative parents act as role models and exhibit the same behaviors they expect from their children. Because of this, their kids are more likely to internalize these behaviors and exhibit them as well. Consistent rules and discipline also allow children to know what to expect.
The parents tend to exhibit good emotional understanding and control. Their children also learn to manage their emotions and learn to understand others. Authoritative parents also allow children to act independently. This teaches kids that they are capable of accomplishing things on their own, helping to foster strong self-esteem and self-confidence. Now that you are an expert on parenting styles, let's talk about how to best apply them as your child grows up. We will be exploring the developmental, psychosocial, and moral stages of youth and how to behave accordingly in each one. Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development has 4 stages: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational.
He discovered these stages through his work with younger children as he came to understand the thought processes behind their actions. One of the most important things that he learned is that every child is unique due to the life experiences that they had and how they have dealt with both their successes and their failures. The sensory motor stage is from birth to 2 years of age and has 6 substages. The initial substage is from birth to 1 month old. He called it the simple reflexes stage, and like the name suggests, it deals with simple reflexes like rooting and sucking. This comes from the need to nurse from the mother. Having a mother that is a permissive parent, a child might have trouble in this stage because children need immediate care and attention when first being born. Because permissive parents are so lax, making sure their child is on a specific feeding or nursing schedule is something that would be less prioritized, thus rearing their child away from learning simple reflexes. The next substage is first habits and primary circular reactions that last from 1 to 4 months of age. In this substage, the infant will learn to coordinate sensation with 2 forms of reactions, habit and primary. They will try to recreate an event that happened accidentally. Again, permissive parenting is definitely not the way to go here. It is best to be parenting with an authoritarian style during this time. They need to explore the world around them, but they need to do so safely and at your discretion.
The third substage is secondary circular reactions and occurs from 4 to 8 months of age. They will become aware of things beyond their body and be more object-oriented.
Authoritarian parenting is still best during this stage as they go further with their exploration of the world. Setting limits as they look around means protecting them from potential dangers, and authoritarian parents are great at setting limits. The fourth substage is coordination of secondary circular reactions and will begin at 8 months and continue to 12 months. This is when they discover intentional action and can understand object permanence. Object permanence enables them to be able to combine and recombine schemata to reach an objective. Authoritarian parents are still in the lead for this stage of life. They have the capability to set schedules for themselves and stick to it whilst managing others as well. This will help them help their child. The older someone is, the greater their curiosity grows to be. Authoritarian parents will be playing with their children in order to help them develop, and this will help them as they learn how to accomplish goals.
The fifth substage is tertiary circular reactions, novelty, and curiosity. It lasts from 12 to 18 months as the baby will be trying different schemata. This is different as they now internalize what they see and adapt to new situations.
Permissive parenting would be the worst type of parenting to have here, as the child will probably dive neglect as they move around trying to understand their environment. Authoritative parenting would also not be the best, as it is hard to reason with a child when they want something. Authoritarian parenting is the best because they will be controlling the aspects of the situations their child is introduced to, so that the only outcome is the one that they want. They will also not be afraid to be strict about what is and isn't allowed, which impacts how they react to situations in the future.
Next is the preoperational stage. This is the stage where children believe that they are the center of the universe and everything is centered around their needs. Children will be able to learn language and symbols to represent words and images. It has two substages, the symbolic function and the intuitive thought. The symbolic function substage is from the ages of 2 to 4, and it is when the child uses symbols to represent the physical model of the world. This stage can be observed through drawings the child makes. The intuitive thought substage is from the ages of 4 to 7. This is when the child has an increase of creativity and primitive reasoning skills. It is the intuitive stage because children realize that they possess knowledge but do not know how they came to possess it. Their reasoning skills have centration, conservation, irreversibility, class inclusion, and transitive inference.
This is when it's best to be making the switch from an authoritarian parenting style to an authoritative parenting style. While still very important to have strict rules, you want to explain the reasoning behind them as you enforce them. This is to deepen the bond between parent and child as well as to force them to start thinking. They will learn not to question you as they know you have a good reason behind everything that you say. Then we have the fourth stage, the concrete operational stage. This lasts from the ages of 7 to 11 and is truly when a person becomes a young adult. They go from thinking they are the center of the universe to thinking about how others may feel about certain things and trying to understand situations from their perspective. They start to employ logic into their thinking as well as being very literal. This is when you should be using the authoritative parenting style all the time. They will look to you as role models for their own actions and will mimic your reactions to different situations. They base most of their early logic off of your actions as parents, even if they don't understand it completely. It is very important to explain your reasons and actions in an age-appropriate way to them so they can comprehend why you did what you did. The final stage is the formal operational stage, which starts at the age of 11 and continues on until you die. This is truly when you move from being a young adult into being an adult. They will start to think in abstract ways in order to understand the universe around them, and they will also be trying to communicate in more mature ways. While they are trying to face the world is facing them with things like hypotheticals, future, and ideological problems. It is important that you are making the transition from authoritative parenting to more of a permissive parenting style during this stage. As they grow up, they need to have more slack in the rules so that they explore the world for themselves. Do not get rid of all the rules, but allow them to make more decisions by themselves so that they learn to trust their own capabilities and enter the real world as mature people.
Like Piaget's theory, Erik Erikson created the 8 stages of psychosocial development to describe the different challenges children must meet and accomplish, or simply pass through in order to move on to the next stage. These stages consecutively follow each other and lead up into late adulthood. The first stage, trust versus mistrust, begins at birth and continues to approximately 18 months of age. During this stage, the infant is uncertain about the world in which they live and looks towards their primary caregiver for stability and consistency of care. If the care the infant receives is consistent, predictable, and reliable, they will develop a sense of trust which will carry with them to other relationships and they will be able to feel secure even when threatened. If these needs are not consistently met, mistrust, suspicion, and anxiety may develop.
At this point in a child's development, they are understanding who to trust, who their caregivers are, and truly who is there when they need something. If a child is unable to gain a secure, safe attachment with their parents, then they will always be skeptical and never certain enough to trust anyone. A permissive parent would be too lazy to check up on them or leave them in a room to fend for themselves, and eventually a child will learn more about life and how to act from television or from reading books and magazines than from their parents. The second stage, autonomy versus shame and doubt, occurs between the ages of 18 months to approximately 3 years. Children at this stage are focused on developing a sense of personal control over physical skills and a sense of independence.
Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of will. If children in this stage are encouraged and supported in their increased independence, they become more confident and secure in their own ability to survive in the world.
On the flip side, however, if children are criticized, overly controlled, or not given the opportunity to assert themselves, they begin to feel inadequate in their ability to survive and may then become overly dependent upon others.
An authoritarian parental figure would negatively affect the outcome of their child in this stage. In this stage, if the parent is continuously nagging on their inabilities and inadequacies right off the bat, the child will be unable to do things on their own and fear that what they are doing is wrong or not good enough.
The third stage, initiative versus guilt. Children are seen asserting themselves more frequently. Children regularly interact with other children at school as they begin to plan activities and create new games, thus providing them with the opportunity to explore their interpersonal skills through initiating activities. With these opportunities, children develop a sense of initiative and feel secure in their ability to lead others and make decisions.
A healthy balance between initiative and guilt is important. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of purpose, while failure results in a sense of guilt.
At this stage, a permissive parent could successfully provide the access to friendship and group playdates that are necessary for their child's development. Permissive parents are all about fulfilling all of their child's needs if it makes them want to take on a friendship with them. So, in this situation, maybe a permissive parent would be able to host hangouts, playdates, or trips to the park frequently for their children to spend time forming friendships with their friends. An authoritarian parent at this stage would hinder the child's ability to initiate activities and partake in friendships. This is because this parenting type secludes their children, isolating them from having any fun or doing anything that could possibly destroy their chances at ultimate success. In the fourth stage, industry versus inferiority, this would occur between the ages of 5 and 12. Children are at the stage where they will be learning to read and write and do things on their own. Teachers begin to take an important role in the child's life as they teach the child specific skills. The child now feels the need to win approval by demonstrating specific competencies that are valued by society and begin to develop a sense of pride in their accomplishments. If children are encouraged and reinforced for their initiative, they begin to feel industrious and feel confident in their ability to achieve goals. If this initiative is not encouraged, if it is restricted by parents or teachers, then the child begins to feel inferior, doubting his own abilities and therefore may not reach his or her potential. Authoritarian parents would be very useful in this stage because they demonstrate characteristics of not only being very strict and hardcore, but they motivate their children to be the best they possibly can be, and to do the most possible things that will further their success in the future. So, like their child's teachers, an authoritarian parent would make sure that their child was utilizing all of their resources, getting the best grades on their assignments and tests, and doing everything in their power to achieve the highest academic standards. The fifth stage is identity versus role confusion, and it occurs during adolescence from about 12 to 18 years. During this stage, adolescents search for a sense of self and personal identity through an intense exploration of personal values, beliefs, and goals. During adolescence, the transition from childhood to adulthood is the most important. Children are becoming more independent and begin to look at the future in terms of career, relationships, families, housing, etc. The individual wants to belong to a society and fit in. Additionally, this is a major stage of development where the child has to learn the roles he will occupy as an adult, and it is during this stage that the adolescent will re-examine his identity and try to figure out exactly who he or she is through examination of occupational and sexual roles. This is a crucial point in a child's life. Ultimately, it is obvious to see how successful your parenting was for your child, in that if it was consistent and that you were there for your child every step of the way without being too involved or not involved enough. Your child should positively respond to this in their adolescence. In this stage, your child is probably searching for ways to fit into social norms, whether that be peer pressured into doing things because they are cool, they do, and lame if they don't, or if they personally feel as if the gender they were born into just isn't for them. This stage is about acceptance. In this stage, a permissive parent, though oftentimes uninvolved in the decisions their children make, could actually help further the success of their child because they have more freedom to discover who they actually are without a parent like Tiger Mom breathing down their neck, critiquing every move.
The sixth stage is called intimacy versus isolation, which takes place during young adulthood between the ages of approximately 18 to 40 years old.
We begin to share ourselves more intimately with others. We explore relationships leading toward longer-term commitments with someone other than a family member.
Successful completion of this stage can result in happy relationships and a sense of commitment, safety, and care within a relationship.
Children with authoritarian parents would struggle in this stage because, as it is, Tiger Mom receded to isolating her two daughters from other children their age because she believed that they had far more important things to do that would help them achieve success than to waste time on sleepovers and moping around and watching television. However, because of this, her children may struggle to form strong, healthy, and long relationships with people other than their family members because they are around them for so long and do not get to experience the presence of having true friendships or long-term committed relationships.
The The seventh stage is called generativity versus stagnation, which takes place during middle adulthood, ages 40 to 65 years.
Some background first. The term generativity refers to making your mark on the world through creating or nurturing things that will outlast an individual.
People experience a need to create or nurture things that will outlast them. Thus, an example of this would be giving back to society through raising our children, being productive at work, and becoming involved in community activities and organizations. And because of generativity, we are able to develop a sense of being a part of the bigger picture.
Success leads to feelings of usefulness and accomplishment, while failure results in shallow involvement in the world. These individuals may feel disconnected or uninvolved with their community and with society as a whole.
Naturally, as humans, we are always in search of finding the most successful, yet the most fit role for us. Authoritative parents in this sector provide guidance and accountability to help their children throughout life and to make the best decisions in order to help them get where they desire to be in the future. At this stage in their child's life, if their child failed, as they should have plenty of times, then no doubt they probably urge them to get up and try again, or if not, to take a different route to get to success and accomplishment. In total, this would all be to help their child feel needed, yet fulfilled in the sense that they have found ultimate purpose. Ego integrity versus despair is the eighth and final stage of Erik Erikson's stage theory of psychosocial development. This stage begins at approximately age 65 and ends at death.
It is during this time that we contemplate our accomplishments and can develop integrity if we see ourselves as leading a successful life.
At this point in time, parenting definitely comes into play because as we grow old and retire, we are able to think back on how we were raised and if we got to be where we wanted to be. Erik Erikson believed if we see our lives as unproductive, feel guilt about our past, or feel that we did not accomplish our life goals, we become dissatisfied with life and develop despair, often leading to depression and hopelessness.
With that being said, success in this stage will lead to the virtue of wisdom. Wisdom enables a person to look back on their life with a sense of closure and completeness, and also accepts death without fear.
Overall, authoritative parenting, as the most effective form of parenting, should be encouraged throughout a child's entire adolescence, all the way up until when they can make decisions on their own and no longer need parenting. This form of parenting targets each individual child in different ways, helping to provide not only the emotional aspects of development, but physically in ways which to help shape their personality and the characteristics that they eventually grow into. Throughout these psychosocial stages, both children and parents have to learn how to adapt to the new stages of life, and that is best on the stability of authoritative parenting.